You are listening to the People Centric Podcast, where we talk through the toughest challenges that people face at work and give practical advice to fixing those challenges. Thanks for joining our movement to create workplaces that are happier, healthier, aligned, and empowered by putting people at the center of all that we do.
Hey, people-centric leaders. I was on a plane recently because I do that a lot. We fly a lot. Like some of us fly a lot. And I was on a plane and I sat down next to somebody. And sometimes you start conversations. I don't know how you are on planes about starting conversations with other people. Diana, you're kind of do you like to talk to the person next to you on the plane?
I mean, it depends on what's happening. Because if I've been like traveling for work and I'm peopled out, then probably not. But the way there, like to somewhere, I usually am more social. The way back from somewhere, I'm usually like burnt out and tired.
I was on a Las Vegas flight one time. That's one of the Allegiant flights out of Springfield, and everybody's on the same flight going out, and everybody's on the same flight coming back because everybody's going out there. And I noticed that everybody was more talkative on the way out there than they were on the way back. A lot more sunglasses on the way back of people
And a lot more rounds of water.
yeah, a lot. Yeah, yeah. Just keep bringing the water. I don't care. A lot more hoodies. People like putting their heads over their faces and just like, I can't. I just don't
Eye
even want to.
masks and neck pillows came out.
Yeah. But I don't know how I started the conversation with the person next to me, but they started chatting and I found out they were a consultant. So like we don't talk about this enough maybe on our podcast that how do we get these topics? What do we talk about? We're a consulting firm. Like we actually work with real companies. We work with real leaders. Like these stories that we're telling, a lot of times we code them, but they're real stories. They're stories that are things that we see on a really regular basis. And this person was a consultant, and they said, "Hey, I'm a consultant." And I said, "What company do you work for?" And they said they named the company. It's a national large consulting firm. It's one that most of you have probably heard of. It's a really big one. I'm tempted to say the name. I'm not going to do it. I was tempted to. I almost did it. I'm not going to say the name. But I said, "So how is it?" And they said, "Oh, I hate it. I hate working there. I hate the job. I hate everything about it." And I said, "Well, what do you hate about it?" And they said, "Well," he said, "when I go to a new location, I go to see a client, I go out and I ask them, what's the problem? What's going on?" And they tell me all the things. And then I go do a bunch of research and I write down all the stuff. And then I go back and I tell them what they should do differently. And then they don't change anything. And they get really frustrated. And then we come back and they're still having the same problems. And now they don't want to see me anymore because they didn't do anything differently. And it's really frustrating. I just keep telling them and telling them and telling them what they need to change. And they won't change anything. And that doesn't work very well. And I hate my job and I hate my life and I can't wait to find something different. And I like the idea of helping people, but I can't wait to find something different. The ironic thing about all of this is that this person is sitting next to a person who owns a consulting company where I think people like to work at. I think let's put our team up. Philip is on our call right now. Philip, do you love working at People Centric? And on a scale
I
from 9 to 10, how much do you love it?
I do love working at People Centric. 9.5 on that scale, right? There's a little room to make things, I'm sure,
John
better.
and I hate it. I don't like that answer, but okay.
Not now, Philip. Not now.
On a,
It's a
on a one to
practical.
10. That's right. That's right. Yeah. Oh, here, I'll just be quiet then. I'll stop engaging you.
So, yeah, don't engage. But I mean, like our team, like you hear our team talk, like this is how we talk. Like we don't have like somebody said, I heard somebody say like, "Oh, that Diana character is really funny." Like, and I'm like, that's not a character, that's Diana. That's really her.
So
He's
really say
quite a
that to you?
character. That's right. That's hilarious.
That cracks me up. I am quite funny. So,
Yeah.
but you're welcome.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna work on my stand-up more. So there you go.
That's it. But don't put a coin in Diana. I just put a coin in Diana. Now Diana's going to be doing stand up in Seattle. You can catch her at the local
I
stages.
wonder what they think is funny. Like, is it, I don't know. Doesn't matter. Continue.
I
Continue.
think it's your dry directness sometimes. You're just like, well, that's dumb. Like, let's do this. Let's change this, or let's push this, or let's be direct about it. I think it's a little bit of that.
Well, that's not funny. That's the reality.
That's ironic.
What you just said, that was funny. That was it. The face you made, that is actually hilarious. So
You just did it now. So like I think we do things like a really good way. And not only do I think that when we come in to work with companies and organizations, we often come in behind consultants. And we've come in behind really big consultants, like consultants from I'm tempted to name. You know what? I'm going to name them. I'm going to do it. We've come in behind Deloitte. We've come in behind Gallup. We've come in behind Huron Group. We've come in behind some of those other big consultants. And we've looked at the things that they've told the organizations to do. And most of the times they're right. They're good advice, like it's good stuff, but they haven't figured out how to make it change. They haven't figured out how to change the organization. And so the engagement levels and things that are out there, we don't see those numbers change very much. Our average organization that we work with for a year, we see a 25-point increase in their engagement, 20 to 25-point increase in their engagement scores. We make a significant difference on the organizations that we work with. And that's why we love doing what we do in our people life, because it's impactful. And so you might be asking yourself, hopefully you're asking yourself, what's the secret? What's different? What's the thing that you do? And today we're going to tell you what the secret is. We're going to tell it to you. We're going to tell it. And why are we telling you this? Not because we want you to go start a consulting company and compete with us. But please do. Let's go change the world.
Let's change it. Let's do it.
We're on the same mission. Like, let's go do that. But also because I'll bet in your job, in your life, you have wished you could change people. How can you make somebody else do something that they don't necessarily want to do? How can you help somebody to change? Now, this might happen if you own a company and you're like, I can't get my people on board with what I need them to do or take ownership of things. You're going to learn something today. If you're a manager of people and you have employees working directly underneath you and you're like, why don't they care about stuff as much as I do? You're going to learn something today. If you're an employee and you're like, my bosses are terrible or my teammates don't listen to me enough, you might learn something today because we're going to give you the secret of people-centric. How exciting is this?
I have been waiting for this because I would like to know how to get people to do things that I need them to do. So
this is kind of dangerous because if we give Diana this power, I'm not sure you're going to use it for good all the time.
Oh, I definitely won't. Yeah.
I was going to say, I would like to know how you both have gotten me to do so many things. Come to think of it, yeah, I'm on this podcast now. What's happening? Like, where am I?
How did
Working for so long. I was just gifting all
it's
my
coming to up the dosage, up the dosage.
My name is-
Drugs are kicking out.
But I will say one of the things early on when I joined our team, even the kind of people-centric secret, which to your point, it's not that secret, has actually been super helpful for me. And not only in just the work that we do, but just as a person, even when I'm checking out or doing regular small things, it's like, am I really here? Am I really engaging? Am I really doing all the things you're about to say that we do? And it does make interactions and my time with people different.
Yeah. So this is cool because it is universally, only if you work with people or you live near people or you interact with people will this help you. If it doesn't, it's weird that you're listening to this podcast because it's called the People-Centric Podcast. So if you only work with hamsters on a day-to-day basis, I don't know if this will work for hamsters. We have not tested it. It might work with hamsters.
It works with dogs.
It does work with dogs. I have seen it work with dogs. That is really true.
I'll have pet dogs and it works great. So
yeah. So here's what the secret is. So it's called the people-centric cycle. And it's a cycle. So it means that it starts at the beginning and it goes around and then it keeps going around. So it's not like a one-time thing. And it's three things. It's engagement, it's focus, and it's accountability. It's engagement, focus, accountability. So let's really, really break that down. If you want to change something, we start with engagement. What do we mean when we say engagement?
Meeting people where they are. I also think it's making space to engage people where they are, which is different than just showing up and doing something, but really like leaning in, looking for what they're looking for, knowing their goals, knowing their passions, their objectives, knowing enough about them and listening enough to them to really be with them.
Yeah. So when we talk about meeting people where they are, Diana, you want to add something to that?
yeah, I think engaging is such a broad word. So it is hard to like define what do we mean by engagement, but I think it really is like to Philip's point, trying to figure out what this person is doing and what this person needs from you in that moment and like tailoring how you interact with that human based on their needs and your needs. And it's a whole thing.
It's a whole thing. Yeah, there's a whole, we could write books and books and books and books just about that one word of engagement. Like, how do you get engagement? And we often say this, you engage people. You have to go to them. So here's where that fails a lot is we have in our heads what we want to change. And so we try to go and present the thing that we want to change to somebody. We present it. We lecture it. We tell somebody else, let's go change this. You don't get along with our team. You need to change that. You are broken. And then what happens is we as human beings naturally resist that. We tend to push back on things when they're pushed onto us. We love to have choice. Our freedom is so important in our souls, the way that we're created as humans, that when somebody tries to take that or we feel like that's threatened, then we tend to feel like we're being attacked, and it triggers the parts of our brain that tend to fight back and push back against things. So when a consultant shows up on site to do a project and they show up and say, just tell me what's going on, tell me exactly what it is you do here, borrowing from the movie Office Space, people aren't in a mindset where they're like, wow, I can't wait to tell you exactly what I do here because I'm really optimistic about what it's going to happen next. So a lot of times they don't tell and say all the things because they're not, are we listening? Are you asking good questions? All that kind of stuff. And then when the consultant jumps in and says, well, you're doing it wrong. Here's the way you actually should do it. Actually, what you should do is da 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 da. Then people are going to resist that. They're going to resist that because they're not going to feel really heard. They're going to say, well, maybe that works in other places you've been, but it doesn't work here. It doesn't work for me. We get a resistance from that. So that engagement piece, we have to start by hearing what the other person's position is and understanding what the other person's position is. I know, I'll give a quick example of this for those of you who are employees, which is probably most of us, right? Most of us work for somebody else. What I would often see is from my whole career, I would see opportunities to improve things. I'm always like, we could do that better. That's in my DNA. We could do that better. We could do that better. And I would sometimes see an opportunity to improve something, and I would go to my boss supervisor and say, this is dumb how we've been doing this. We need to do this differently. And I've got an idea on how to do this, and we should change this, this, and this. And my boss would always, if I brought it up that way, my boss would be like, okay, well, Don, it's been doing that for a long time. We're just going to leave it that way. Just stop complaining about it. Or the best thing they would do is like, oh, I don't know. Well, you can give me some ideas, I guess, but I guess we're not really going to change it. Like, why would we go change that? I would get a lot of resistance from it and pushback. Have you guys experienced that? Like, I mean, when you go to tell somebody or push something really hard on another person, a team member, a relationship, anything like that, how you get that pushback?
Yeah, I'm the type of person that's just like very direct and very just like, well, you should do this. And every time I'm like, you should go do this, they kind of back up from me and are like, I wasn't asking you. I don't need to know what you think. Like, it is not the right way to do that. Everybody bristles at it.
Yeah, we're hardwired to. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, to that, I think too, there's oftentimes maybe I don't realize it until way later, right? But whether you disagree about how to do a thing or what's the most important way to do this or what are we going to prioritize, whether that's planning trips with friends to like merging 10 different programs at the nonprofit I was at previously. Lots of hard things where like there's a lot at stake, but then in the middle of it, you kind of lose the focus of what's most important and why are we doing this anyway? And why am I in a group meeting? Why do I need you? Why aren't I just doing this by myself? Because you need each other, right? It's not going to be the same if it's just me. But I think oftentimes we kind of lose that main priority focus of like why we're here to begin with and why are we engaging? We're not against each other. We're for each other as we do those things. And so just to your point, losing the will in the middle of that, you're like, you don't even mean to, I think, but a lot of people do.
Yeah. And it's often happens when we're most passionate about the thing. So whatever thing we're about to present, I'm super passionate about it. I can't wait to tell you about it. I'm going to tell you the story about it. I'm going to lecture at you about why we should make this change and why you should care about it. And boy, that is the worst way to influence somebody. That's just not typically very influential. Unless the person was already kind of thinking that same direction, you kind of accidentally engaged them, is what I would say. Does that work? But most of the time, people will naturally resist it. I don't see how we could change this. I don't see why you want to change this. I don't know why you're so passionate about this. So how do we flip that around as a company? How do you engage somebody? I know you say, how do you get engagement? You engage them. So how do you engage somebody? What's the right way to do that?
I don't know about the right way, but a thing that we do is we start with curiosity and we really want to hear like their perspective and we ask a lot of questions. And then I think that helps people see like we're not going to throw things at them without building a lot of information first. And then it kind of opens them up to say, I don't know, we do this thing and I don't really love it, but that's what we do. And it just gives people freedom to talk about their side of things and their perspective before we start shooting down everything that they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. Then we start shooting down everything that they're doing.
I do. Just kidding. Just kidding. I don't. Not every time.
Not every time. Just some of the things. Just the things they're doing terribly, terribly wrong.
And it happens.
It does happen. It does happen sometimes.
Yeah, but still.
Yeah, so I mean, I loved your being curious, right? Just going in and saying, I'm going to ask some questions before I jump in and make an assumption about what we see. What's interesting about that side note is like we're often wrong. Like when you come in, if you're a little curious, like there was an organization recently that I met with, and I heard them say, "Oh, we really." We're not very good at accountability was the discussion. And they said, we just launched. I said, give me an example. And they talked about this program that they tried to launch and that some of the people on their team followed it. Some of the people on their team didn't follow it. And they said, we're really bad at accountability. Our team doesn't hold their teams accountable. And so then I started talking and in my head, I was like, okay, well, we have an accountability problems. We've got some bad people who don't know how to manage people on the team. And like, we're going to have to help them with that. I started to come to that conclusion. Well, then I got to meet with some other people on the team that they were also talking about, like, these are the people that don't hold other people accountable. I got to meet with them. And I didn't go into the meeting and say, well, I've heard that obviously you can't hold people accountable, so we're going to work on that. If I had done that, that's not the engagement piece. Instead, started asking them questions. I started saying, tell me a little bit about your job. What are the things that you struggle with? What does that look like? And they didn't talk about anything about accountability. And I thought that's a little bit odd because usually even people, if you're struggling to get your people to do something, most of the time there's some pain on the manager level too. Usually they say something. So I finally just kind of asked the question. I said, some people have said like this project that you guys recently did on your team, that wasn't launched equally through all the organization. And they said, oh, I know exactly what you're talking about. Like, I don't think we decided that we wanted to launch that project yet. Like my understanding was we were talking about maybe doing it, but we weren't really launching that with everybody. Well, now suddenly it clicked in my head, like you don't have an accountability problem. We have a communication problem. Like we have an alignment problem like that. And that's a lot easier to solve in terms of that team of just being clear about what their expectations are next page, what their next page would be, their next moves. So it's just an example of when you're curious, and we often say good communication only happens when you know you might be wrong. We have to go in knowing that we might be wrong about what our assumptions are, and then people feel like they're contributing. People feel like they're walking next to you then in that. We also talk about even situationally, right? Like even in the moment, like how we meet people where they are. What does that look like?
One of the things I think that we do in line with Diana's curiosity comment, I think there's an element of we don't moralize a lot of things. I think sometimes people have thoughts or ideas or, oh, it's wrong to disagree, or I should feel bad of this, or, there's a lot of that baggage that can come with things. And so I think one thing that we do well to just make space for it, we're like, hey, we all think in stories. And so we're not saying what is right, what is wrong, what is the most, we're just saying, where are you? What is your experience? What do you see? What do you come across? And your point too is so great. Not competing it to say, oh, well, you said this, but Diana said something different. So one of you is right and one of you is wrong. Who's the smart one? Who's the dumb one? And so I think that we understand there's a lot of truth to a lot of perspectives. And so we just lean in to say, what truth do you see? And if we can connect that with what other people see and then connect that to the bigger purpose, why we're all here anyway, that's when we can really start to make movement.
I was totally going to say something similar. I was going to call it judgment. Like we go in with no judgment, right? Like your perception is your reality, and I'm not going to question your perception or your reality. Like I'm just going to hear you out and see where you're at and in this time, in this place, at this moment, and know that maybe tomorrow you would say something different because you'd be in a different time and place and moment. And so I think we just let it be what it is.
Yeah, I like that. Those are both good examples that you kind of brought up of like, I'm going to go ask you questions to find out without judgment, but also watching to see where they're at even in that second, in that moment. So like, are you upset right now? Are you happy right now? I mean, we've talked to people who've come on the call or in a conversation or stepped into a conference room where you could tell like they're terrified. They're really scared. And so then we have to have a conversation that's then the conversation's very personal, like of just not like, but like surfacey personal, like how's your day going today? Tell me a little bit about yourself. How long have you worked here? Like it's very surfacey to sort of build some rapport to try to build up. Or sometimes people will come in hot and like, okay, I've got 5 things that I want to tell you about this company and how terrible they are with all this stuff. And then we have to kind of meet them and say, boy, I can tell that you're really upset about this. And, you've thought about this ahead of time a little bit. We'd love to hear what you have to say, like say that. And so even if we have other questions, sometimes we'll let them get those things off their chest before we get into the other questions that we have. There's just moments where you have to watch that. Like if you're an employee and you're going to your supervisor and you walk in and your boss is obviously like typing on a computer and going like, hey, boss, you got a second? Your boss is going, yeah, what is it? What do you need? Like read the moment. And is this the moment that you want to bring a big idea to them? you may want to take a step back and read the moment and go like, you know what, actually I had an idea. I'll talk to you about it later. It's not important right now. Or is there a better time for me? When's a better time for me to bring this up? That's really good. Or go to the boss, like if you're thinking about a boss, ask the question, tell me like, what's important to you? One of my favorite moments at 3M was I saw we had to double, triple enter everything. I always hated as an engineer. If we go buy something, it's like you had to go into the project and you had to enter in the information for the vendor. And then you had to go into another system, enter the same information in the vendor. And you had to go in and enter the same information as a vendor. And we spent so much time like inputting things. It was just a big waste of time. And at the same time, we were getting pressure from the company to like work faster. Like we need to get the engineering done faster and our projects are taking too long. And so a lot of the engineers were getting really, including myself, were getting negative and bitter of like, well, then quit making us triple enter everything. And why is the software bad and all these things? And so I wanted to really change it. And in one of my better moments at 3M, I brought it to my boss and I said, you know, do you get a lot of pressure about us not doing things fast enough? And he says, oh my gosh, yes, I sure do. I do get a lot of pressure for that. And I'm like, okay, what if there was an idea of how we could maybe work faster? Would you be interested in that? And he's like, yeah, actually, I would be really interested in this. And I said, well, okay, well, several of us were talking. We noticed like how much time we spent entering stuff in to the computer. And he goes, oh, that's really interesting. We were talking a little bit about that. And so he connected me with like a vice president of the company and said, maybe you should share that with them. And so then I went to the vice president and I said, tell me like a little bit about your job. I said, I don't know what your job's like. Like I'm several levels below you. What's your day-to-day look like? And she told me, she says, oh, my job is we think about new product lines and new things that we go in the plants. And then people like you like put in the process to build the plants and then get it into production. I said, are you ever frustrated by the time that it takes that you have an idea to produce something and how much time it takes us to go execute it? And she says, yeah. She says, I know it's complicated to design it and to do all this stuff. And I said, yeah. I said, you know, if I can give you some feedback on that. And she says, yeah. And I said, it's not always the time to design it. I said, that takes this much time. The bureaucracy and things that we wade through in terms of adding information into the system takes up most of our time. The design is only a small part of it. And she's like, what? Oh, wow. What do you mean by that? And I started talking a little bit about it. She started asking me questions. It became a conversation. Long story short, we led a project that helped us to create like a front end software that filled all the information out for engineers and made it a lot easier for us to do projects. It made it faster for us to do projects. 3M estimated that it saved 3M like $100 million a year, some crazy number like that. I got a golf club for doing that project. I still use it. It's good. It's a good golf club. I didn't see much of the 100 million. I saw a little bit of it, I guess, technically. But I was like it was a great energizing project for me. Where if I had gone into my boss, think about it this way, if I'd gone into my boss and said, that software sucks and I'm sick of it and you got to change it. Suddenly he's going like, I don't have time to change that. I'm definitely not putting you in front of somebody that can change that. I'm not going to send you to a vice president and say, hey, talk to this engineer. They're complaining to me. I want them to complain to you now because they're not going to elevate that situation. So that's the engagement piece, is like meeting people where they are. The next piece is the focus piece. What does the focus part mean?
The focus part is my favorite part. It's the part where we start to discuss, what do you need and how can we help you? And it's the like, okay, you have all of these things happening. Your world is crazy. Life is crazy. You've got office politics at play and policy at play and workforce at play. But at the end of the day, where do you want to go? And I think that is one of my favorite parts of this, is that it doesn't matter what's going on. It doesn't matter where all the things are. Like, we can just talk about where you want to go. And it kind of brings them back in a little bit, because we kind of blow up everything and talk about all the things. And then it kind of focuses them back in and says like, okay, knowing all of that and understanding all of that and hearing all of that, now what?
Yeah, we just spent some time with a great new team that were new to us, not a new team, a team out in Nashville. So giving them kind of credit. I won't name the company, but you know who you are. If you get to listen to the podcast, you'll know who you guys are. And they did some strategic planning, and they were making a list of all these things that they could do and all these different areas that, like, with a lot of those areas we can help them with, of all these things. And then somebody took a step back at some point and was like, how the heck do we do all this stuff? Like, we have real jobs. We have all this other stuff. How do we actually implement this? And so we break it down and say, well, what are the areas that we should focus on first? It's how do you eat an elephant, right? It's one bite at a time. It's like, let's break down all these things. So what's the first step that we could take to start to move this forward? A lot of consultants we see, going back to the consultant analogy, which I think is really powerful, a lot of consultants we see have plays that they call, or they have things that they will implement, or programs, and they already have that defined. So I'm not going to engage you. Our first step is going to be, and they just jump right in. And so I don't have you with me. And now we're just doing everything. And now you don't have people walking with you. Our focus stuff is flexible. Like we have a framework that we go back to, but that framework doesn't tell us to start here and then go here and then go here and then go here. We can go where the client thinks it's going to make the best impact for them and say, we're going to work on this thing with you because we're going to see an impact. And then when you see some wins and you're excited about it, then we can shift and go on to the next thing and work on that thing and that area of focus. That's the focus thing. We don't have to do everything at once. Let's focus on some specific areas. So the next piece of that in that cycle is accountability. This is my least favorite part. I think we just do it, and then I'm sure it will all work out. But what does accountability mean? What does that look like? Why did you laugh when I said that?
Just do it. I think that's, I laugh because it's just the most hilarious part. You're like, this is also the least favorite. This is also where the rubber meets the road. And in a weird way is one of my favorite parts. So we all got to speak to our favorite parts. I love to know, okay, we have a great, great vision and we get to know the people and then we're focused. And then what are we going to do? What are our next steps? Who's going to do it? When do we come back together to talk about these next steps, make it happen, like implement all those things? Accountability is essentially knowing who's on what play, who's running it, who's jumping into it, who has some decision to make that happen. I always think of a symphony. Accountability in a way, right, is knowing like which instrument do I play and where do I sit and when do I come in and when do I step out to make this whole thing work and get together. Accountability is then that I can't say this word today. It's the third time I've tried to say operationalize your strategy, right? So I love the example of the team you guys met with where there's this excitement and then it's excitement turned into action is what accountability is.
Yeah, I like that. And I like that there's a component, and you kind of alluded to it, of circling back, right? It's not the one-time thing. It's not just saying, okay, you're assigned to do this, and then you're going to go do this thing. It's you're assigned to do this, and we're going to check back in a week, and we're going to see how it went. And then even for us, it's the next step of saying, and did it do what you expected it to do? It's like we set up meetings with our clients. I don't hear other consultants do, where we ask them, like, how are the things going that we just did? Is it working? I mean, that's a risky meeting. I remember the first times we talked about doing that meeting. We're like, there's a chance that it's not. Like we did the great workshop and when everybody was energized and they were really excited and they went back to work and no one implemented the things that we talked about. Like that can happen. And frankly, like it does happen. That's the reality of people. Sometimes you have the best intentions, you try to do something and then life happens or they get busy with something else, they get distracted, or maybe we didn't do it as well as we could have, or they didn't listen as much as they could have, and we get stuck. But we create these courageous conversations where we say, did it work? Give us the feedback.
And I also think I want to point out here that like we do the engagement focused accountability thing in every meeting. So even if we're just talking about accountability, right? Even if we're doing a check-in and saying like, did this thing work? We're still going in, we're still asking good questions, we're engaging them, we're meeting them where they are. Then we're going to refocus them and be like, oh, today's meeting is about accountability. We're going to talk like we got to refocus and then we got to do the accountability thing again. So it's not just the first meeting is engagement, the second meeting is focus, the third meeting, like that's not how that works. You do this every single time you sit in front of someone else.
Yeah.
It's constant.
Where are you at? I'm going to sit next to you. Here's the things we're going to do. And then here's what the next steps are going to be and how we're going to make sure that it happens. That's that cycle. And you're right. I like, that's a great point, Diana, because I always think of it, I tend to think of it like longer term. You're right. I do think of it like that. And it's both, right? It's like long term, like how to execute something, you do it both, but you have to do it like in the mini conversations and the bigger picture at the same time.
Definitely.
And it's scary. I know again, picking on other consultants, but talking this, like we were working with a hospital who's working with another consultant. And that other consultant has them in a year-long contract, and they would like to get out of that contract, and the consultant's not letting them out of that contract. And our contracts are like 30-day out. I mean, we do short-term outs, and the reason we do that is we have a manufacturer that offers a stupid long warranty. Way longer than anybody else. Like their competitors are doing like a 1-year warranty and they're doing like a 5-year warranty like that. Like, and the reason they're doing it is because their quality is good enough that they feel that they could be accountable to the service that they provide. They're like, we shouldn't have to tell our customers that we think we're going to have really good results, but only for a little while. Like you shouldn't have to do that. And that's kind of been our philosophy the whole time of saying like, if it's not working, like then we got to circle back and figure out how to make it work. And if it's really, really not working for you and we need to split up and you need to go do something else, we want you to do that quickly. Like go ahead and do that if you want. the good thing about that is that doesn't happen very often. Like we don't have that, we don't get those false starts because of this cycle, because we're talking about meeting you where you are, what's the focus of it, and then being accountable in the short-term situations makes us accountable in the long-term situations as well. So how does that apply to like employees or conversations with other people?
Well, I was just gonna ask Philip because I think before we started recording, you said something about how, or maybe it was in the recording, it applies to just you and how you interact with people. And so I wanted to see if you had an example of that.
Yeah, oh, that's a great question. I think a good example of that, well, other than just that contract method, if accountability is you signed a document, I'm a consultant, and now you're stuck with us for a year, that's not great because then you don't lead to focus or engagement after that. I think in a lot of ways, trip planning, I think, is one thing I just referenced. When you plan a trip with friends or family, whoever it is, there's always this great excitement up front. You can go 1,000 places, much like a company can go a million directions in what you choose to do. And we just planned a sibling trip, my brother, sister, and I last fall. And in that went from like exciting trip mode to we all wanted different things, had different budgets and different expectations. It's the youngest one, it's the sister. She always made it more complicated. But a lot of our conversations shifted from like, let's imagine, let's dream to like, don't agree. Don't agree. Can't figure out. Can't. You can't. And so it really honed into like, okay, what are our most important things here? Let's make our most important lists, right? And then we took it to our focus part. Everyone run around, go figure out your top things. And then we came together with research and everyone had their favorite 5 for Barcelona and seven things for Seville. And so it literally was, I think, another application of when we talk about engagement, focus, and accountability and how if you lean in, it makes things different. I think in the employee worlds that we see a lot as well, or even leaders. To Don's example, I love how it's like, I'm an employee, but I made it all the way to a vice president. And my question wasn't, why aren't you doing better for me? Or like, I need more things at my level. It was, where are your pain points or what is your frustration? How can we work on this together? And I think we hear a lot of leaders in their sections say, I can't hear from my team, or I don't always know what they're saying or what they're thinking. And so I think that honest leaning in and then coming around side, as you pointed out, like to make those things happen really, really makes a difference there.
If you have those conversations as a manager of
Yeah.
saying like, how are you? What do you need? Then when you need something, you're still walking next to the person and you can say, okay, that's good to know that. Let me share with you now what we need as a team, like so that you can build that alignment piece into it, right? And you can have the performance conversations a little bit easier and say like, okay, hey, this isn't working out the way that it needs to work. Tell me about it. Let's talk about why. What the mistake that we see managers do is come forward and say like, okay, I can tell that you don't care about your job enough, so you should care more about the job. That is judging other people's intentions, which we talk about a lot as a bad way of getting people plugged in. That makes people defensive. That's the opposite of engaging somebody. That is mind reading, often inaccurately about how the person feels versus saying to the other person saying, hey, look, we're not performing well here as a team, or you're not performing as well as you should be here, and I want to meet with you and talk a little bit, and let's talk together about why. Let's work together to figure out why we're doing that. Now, the image in my head is always like, I'm sitting next to you now. I'm walking along with you. I want to guide you in this. I want to give you the feedback. I need you to know that what's happening. So it's not just, how are you today? And I hope that you come up with a problem. Sometimes I will have to say the thing like, hey, we're not performing really well. We're really behind. We're losing. I need you to do better. Let's work together and figure out how we can do that. Then you can kind of read whether they're going to engage you back. Right. And sometimes they don't. Sometimes you can do this process and it still fails. This is not a universal, like this will work for every single person. This maximizes the chance of getting the other person to want to change. We still have some companies that we have worked with, and we try to identify it early on that they don't want to do the things we're doing. We're misaligned in what they even want to do. And we'll pick up on that. We've had companies call us and say, we want you to come in and identify who we should fire on our team. And fortunately, like we identify that before they hire us and say like, that's not what we do. We don't want to do that. So we'll back off from that. So sometimes you don't get the other person to do the things you want them to do, but this maximizes the chance for seeing that being successful by meeting them where they are.
Yeah, I think the tricky part of engagement is once you've engaged, it doesn't mean that you're going to get your agenda accomplished, right? It means now you're in it together and you have to figure out what that looks like together. And I think you're right. Like getting people to do what you want. Yeah, there's a better chance, but it probably is not going to be exactly what you wanted. It's going to be some combination of what everybody needs because you've engaged it.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. When Don was talking, I imagine it's like the difference of one person holding a map and kind of shouting out orders to everyone or blueprints saying, this is where we're going to go, or this is what you're going to do. It's supposed to be like, everyone come in here and we can game plan this out together. For the way our trip ended really was because of all those things. My brother, sister, and I, we all laughed a lot on the trip. There were some moments of contention on the trip, but our accountability piece for ourselves was, we're going to have fun. We're going to make sure there's space and time for everyone. And one of the things that fueled us for all of our friend groups, we all live across the country. Anytime people heard about you're doing a sibling trip, talk about engagement, they would always interrupt us. We all had the same story dozens of times before our trip, because they would say, I would never do that with my family, right? Like, I would not engage in this way. I would pause. So we had lots of feedback constantly from people saying, really, it can't be done. I would not do that. How are you able to do this? Which actually just fueled us to be like, we love each other a lot, and this is going to be a lifelong experience we'll always go back to. And so we're going to do it. But I think the same thing happens in workplaces too, right? If you're like, it's too hard to engage, I'm just going to tell everyone what to do, or I'm not going to do it at all. And to Don's point, how exciting when people say, what if we actually enjoy doing this? What if we had a vision to do it and then actually make it happen together? And people do that. It's possible.
Yeah. Then you give them credit. Right. Then you help other people say, like, that this was you that did this. Like, we don't go, that's another thing we see consultants do, is they say, we were able to take that company and help them to build da, 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 da. Just like a politician saying, like, I helped to boost the economy, or I helped to grow jobs, or anything. No, you did not. You did not do that. That's the companies and the people out there that did that. That's the work that you do. You create policies and you get out of the way, and other people do that. When we work with companies, like, we're not creating a people-centric system for them. We're creating their systems. And we're not creating it. We're working with them to do it. We're co-creating it. It's together we're working on that. And that mindset is critically important. And the best part about that is what we create together is always better than what we would have created on our own. And it's always better than what they would have created on their own, because we get to use the best of what both of us are. Like, we need other people. So when you go to change somebody else, the mindset shouldn't be, I'm going to change you because I'm right and you're wrong. The mindset should be, let's work together to partner to try to figure out how we can change, and is there a way to make this better? And then watch the other person, listen, and then engage them, and be open to the fact that they may not want to change, or they may have a different idea than what you have, and then follow that and take that. Whatever they give you, take it and then move forward with it. I think a lot of times we miss that basic humanity for ourselves. So there you go. We just shared our secrets. Like, everybody else is going to start doing it now. And we're probably going to lose our competitive advantage. But we're just happy that you could be here in the moment with us.
I'd rather everyone know how to do this. The world will be a better place if everyone does this. I'd rather.
It will be. And the funny thing is that the bigger companies like that won't believe that anyway. They don't look at us and go like, oh my gosh, we're threatened by you guys. Is the small consulting firm out of Springfield, but that is growing very well and very strong. And again, yielding unusual results for our clients. They're seeing unusual things. Like, that's the team. We just met with a team yesterday, and they brought in like 5 different consultants to work with them over the last 3 years. Like 5 different, all at the same time, by the way, not all at the same, like literally in the same moments, but like different teams. Like, this team's here this week working on this thing. This team's here, they're working on this team. This team's working on this team. And then they got rid of the other 4, and now they've just hired us. Like, they're only working with us. And we asked the question yesterday of saying, why did you decide to work with us? And they said, we just kept noticing that you were the team that our team wanted to work with. And it's not because of the way that we do it in terms of the ideas that we bring, but it's because they felt like they were part of it when we were working. They felt like they were heard working with us. And those are their words, but it fits this engagement, focus, accountability cycle that we leverage, which is a little humbling. Like, it's that we don't have all the answers. We see a lot. We have some good insights, but we don't have to come up with all the answers. We can come up with those answers with our clients, which is great because that helps them to change better. And you can use this as an employee. You can use this as in a relationship. You can use this as a manager of people. So thanks a lot for joining us at this People-Centric podcast. We're excited to have you, and catch you next time.
Thank you for listening to the People-Centric podcast. We are so grateful for you joining us every week. If you like this content, please like and subscribe. Also, feel free to share on your social media with everyone that you know. It really does help us. If you would like to contact us, I have put our information in the show notes. Please reach out anytime. We love hearing from you. We will be back next week with a new topic. Until then, be well and